Funny how that works. Two of the loudest voices in the United States of America, Patrick Bet-David and Vivek Ramaswamy, who claim to be hard workers and who are trying to tell you that you just need to work a little bit harder, turns out that the source of their wealth came from essentially scams. Patrick Bet-David has been exposed. And as a result of this exposure, he has declared war, along with MAGA, on Wikipedia. Let's get into it. Patrick Bet-David built his entire platform, his brand, his empire off the idea of being a robust and hardworking businessman, an entrepreneur who takes risk and gets the reward. As it turns out, Patrick Bet-David built his entire financial kingdom off of a multi-level marketing scam, a pyramid scheme. Now, while this has been known by many people, it did not come into the public eye, generally speaking, until this past weekend, when Patrick Bet-David decided to wade into the conversation over the H-1B visa program. You could look that up to find out more information about that. The long and short of the H-1B visa program is the question of whether or not immigrants should be allowed to come to the United States to work for employers that in some cases claim that these are highly skilled workers that they absolutely need to bend the laws or circumvent the normal process to allow them to come and work for tech companies, for example, particularly immigrants from India. There are two oppositions to this H-1B visa debate. One of them are just purely racist, as pointed out by everyone from Elon Musk to Vivek Ramaswamy. It's clearly just a group of people who don't want any immigration to the United States of America. Then there's the rest of us who look at this and say the H-1B visa program has been used historically to provide cheap labor that they can circumvent the normal wage regulations here in the United States of America by filling that position with someone from a foreign nation. And we have seen the pressure that has been applied to so many workers, so many migrant and immigrant workers because of the threat of losing that H-1B visa. And we're quite certain that that's exactly the nature behind Elon Musk's desire to expand the program. That's the long and short of it. Let's get back to Patrick Bet-David, who decided to wade into this conversation about the virtues of being an immigrant who worked 80 hours a week. And because of that, that's the source of his success. Patrick Bet-David is telling everyone that he is successful because he was a hard-working immigrant. Little did most people know that the source of his wealth and his empire came from a scam, much like Vivek Ramaswamy, by the way, who himself scammed millions upon millions of dollars out of shareholders by promoting a miracle Alzheimer's drug that was not miraculous at all. Vivek Ramaswamy essentially pumped and dumped stocks, destroying a company, destroying shareholder wealth, as well as defrauding a lot of patients who thought the drug did what he said it would do. Funny how that works. Two of the loudest voices in the United States of America, Patrick Bet-David and Vivek Ramaswamy, who claim to be hard workers and who are trying to tell you that you just need to work a little bit harder, turns out that the source of their wealth came from essentially scams. I would call them frauds, but fraud has a very specific legal definition. And there are just so many things in the United States of America that to a moral person seems fraudulent, but to the legal system is not fraudulent. So let's just call them scam artists. And this is why Patrick Bet-David has declared war on Wikipedia, because Wikipedia has the record. And Wikipedia was the source of why millions of people on Twitter, X, now know the truth about Patrick Bet-David. Let's get into the particulars so that you can see it for yourself. Here is Patrick Bet-David grandstanding about how hard he worked as an immigrant to the United States of America. Let's read it. As an immigrant from Iran, I saw this as an edge. Speaking of Vivek Ramaswamy's tweet below. I didn't mind working 80 hours a week. I didn't mind the competition. All I wanted was a shot. This used to be the American way. He went on, but you get the gist of it. Now, this was the tweet that prompted so many people to say, now, wait a minute, Patrick, not only is the advice that you're giving unhealthy and not sustainable, as Andrea says in this reply, saying, quote, kindly, Patrick, working 80 hours a week is not a healthy role model. Absolutely the case. And I want to read you one more reply from Patrick Bet David. This is what he said. He said, respectfully, both the app plus the phone you are using were built by a founder and an executive team that worked 80 hours a week for many years. Also, our founding fathers worked and fought nonstop more than 80 hours a week to build America. We're beneficiaries of their sacrifices. Now, something about grandstanding when you really have no ground to stand on really jogs my memory about your individual past, because this is what caused me to jump into the conversation saying word on the street is that you made your fortune not working 80 hours a week, but through a pyramid scheme, Patrick Bet David. Now, I'm not exactly sure the chain of events that led exactly to the community note that was grounded in Wikipedia that exposed and humiliated Patrick Bet David, but I like to think that I had some kind of contribution to that chain of events, but I digress. That's neither here nor there. Let's continue on. What happened after that? Well, community notes got involved. Community notes is where a small measure of accountability occurs on Twitter, or now X. This is where the community looks at what someone says and say, wait a minute, I think you're telling a lie, or wait a minute, I think you're being disingenuous. And so they source it, they make their point, people vote on it, and if enough people support what you have to say, your tweet carries around this community note, just like this one that was attached to Patrick Bet David's tweet. This is what it says. Patrick Bet David made his money by founding a predatory multi-level marketing pyramid scheme, which he then used to market himself as a business guru on YouTube. He is essentially a scam artist. And the source was Wikipedia, which brings us full circle to why Patrick Bet David and now the rest of MAGA have declared war on Wikipedia. Now, before we get to the war on Wikipedia, let's go to the actual Wikipedia article, because I want you to see for yourself the history of Patrick Bet David that he now wants scrubbed from the internet. He wants scrubbed from Wikipedia. Here's the career of Patrick Bet David. On September 10th, 2001, Patrick Bet David was hired as a financial advisor at the Glendale branch of Morgan Stanley Dean Witter. He later went on to work at Transamerica for nearly 8 years. Bet David founded PHP Agency in 2009, focusing on life insurance and financial services. The company, a multi-level marketing scheme, was acquired by Integrity, another multi-level marketing company, in 2022. On November 9th, 2012, Bet David launched the Valuetainment channel on YouTube, which features commentary by Bet David and interviews. It eventually grew into a larger media company, which hosts conventions, speakers, including Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Nick Saban. This last part is important also. As Valuetainment grew, Bet David ventured into political commentary, launching the PBD podcast, which hosts debates and interviews on American politics and cultural issues. On the podcast, Bet David has interviewed guests including Reza Pahlavi, Crown Prince of Iran, Bishop Marie Emanuel, and Donald Trump. He has established himself as a staunch ally of Donald Trump. This is the article that was used to source the community notes that Patrick Bet David has now declared war on. Patrick decided, let me cry. Let me go and talk to Daddy Elon Musk and tell him that I don't like this. And so he sent out the following tweet, quote, "Hey, Elon Musk, I appreciate the value of community notes in fact-checking misinformation, but this particular note falls short of the platform's stated objectives. It feels more like a personal attack tied to my stance on H-1B visas, resembling the flaws of Wikipedia." Does it really though? Or is it a factual statement about the way that you gained your wealth that everyone is now saying, you know what? I don't know if we really should be taking advice about working 80 hours a week from a guy who built his entire fortune off of a multi-level marketing pyramid scheme, Patrick Bet David. And of course, I jumped in the conversation saying, you're not denying the truth of the note, Patrick Bet David. Tell us more about how hard you worked on your MLM, multi-level marketing profession. And listen, The reason I say stuff like this is because, let's be real, man. These folks have built entire platforms off of giving you advice on how you should work hard, giving you advice on how you should have this work ethic, how you should pull yourselves up by your bootstraps. Meanwhile, they engage in some of the most predatory practices possible. And then they package it up into podcasts and promote it to people. I'm just getting beside myself with the alliteration, but they promote it to people like you who have a passion for being successful. And there you go, taking advice, clicking on, buying products, going to the conventions, buying his books, a person who he himself is a pyramid scheme predator. I mean, really, folks, do you really want to take advice from someone who built his company not off of hard work and ethics, but hard work at scamming people? Hard working at multi-level marketing schemes, hard work making money off of people without providing the value that they promised. And yet here he is with Valuetainment, a wildly successful. Listen, the man is successful now. Regardless of how he built his initial wealth, he's successful in and of himself by telling you how hard you should work. That should absolutely rub you the wrong way. But I digress. Let's go a little bit further. Patrick Bet-David now has found it necessary to go to war with Wikipedia because it's not enough for him to just get the community note removed from his tweet. He now needs to crush the record. And while he's crushing his own personal record, as it has been prolifically documented on Wikipedia, here he is now saying, no, that's not enough. Now I want to take down all of Wikipedia. And he starts here. Should Wikipedia be a reliable source for community notes? He sends out this polling. And of course, considering his fan base, they said no. Now, folks, let's be real. If you have followed the progression of what Wikipedia truly is, you understand the robustness and the veracity of Wikipedia. Can misinformation seep through? Yes, because it's such a huge platform. But the editors, the individuals who contribute, and the people who verify and check the sources, it is a robust community of individuals who verify and have created an archive of masterfully kept information. I mean, from quantum mechanics down to political issues, it is a robust archive of information and knowledge. But because it has become inconvenient for Patrick Bet-David, all of MAGA is now sinking their teeth into the idea of destroying Wikipedia and labeling it as woke. There's so many layers to this conversation. You have in column one, you have people like Vivek Ramaswamy and Patrick Bet-David, who are immigrants, and no offense to immigrants. You know, on this channel, I defend and support immigrants just as much as any other marginalized group. But they're immigrants like Patrick Bet-David and Vivek Ramaswamy, who actually is kind of like a chain migration baby, but that's a whole different conversation. But they come to lecture people in the United States of America about the value of hard work, when in reality, we know their history. We know how they made their money. And they made their money, perhaps it's not fraud in the legal sense, but to the average person who was hurt by what they did, they consider it fraud. They consider, the victims of Vivek Ramaswamy consider themselves as having been scammed. The people who poured value and wealth into Patrick Bet-David's multi-level marketing scam, only to realize it wasn't about the value, it was about their fees that they paid him. I bet you they feel scammed. But they have the unmitigated gall to lecture us Americans about hard work and work ethic, when most of us in the United States of America have to work 80 hours a week just to pay rent for a one-bedroom apartment and to have food or to buy medication. So it's the disingenuousness of it. It's the nerve, it's the gall, it's the unmitigated gall of it. It's the pompousness, the temerity to stand up and look you in the face and say, you need to work harder like I did, when what they're not saying in the subtext is clearly this: I worked really hard at scamming people. I worked really hard at my multi-level marketing scam. I worked really hard at my pyramid scheme. I worked really hard at defrauding, or rather, that's a legal term, at plundering the wealth of multiple companies, Vivek Ramaswamy. The moral of the story is this: be careful who you get financial advice from. Be careful who you get entrepreneurial advice from, and really question the source of how they made their money, because you might not realize that they've moved from one scam to another, where they scammed people before you, and now they are selling you a bill of goods. They're selling you books. They're telling you to subscribe so that you can listen to them give you advice on how to work hard, when all they ever worked hard at was scamming people.